Good morning, my name's John, I work for A1 Training. Today we're going to go through CPC Module 4 training. Now the CPC Module 4 is a show me, tell me test, so you must make sure that not only do you show the examiner what you need to do, you also have to tell them what to do. So the first question that you're going to come across may be, your fully laden vehicle is ready for you to do a delivery. Show me the checks you would carry out to make sure the vehicle is not overloaded. If you're still in doubt, what else could you do? So some of the checks for an overloaded vehicle would be listing or leaning of the vehicle. You may look at the wheel arches and the tyres to see if the wheel arch is touching the tyre, or at the back again whether the wheel arch is touching the tyre or the tyres are actually bulging out. You could check the suspension. Now on this vehicle we have air suspension, so again you would check that level, but if you had leaf sprung suspension, you'd make sure that the leaf springs are smiling at you, not frowning at you. Another way would be to move away from the vehicle, and again you're checking for any listing or leaning of the vehicle. You could check the weight plate for the vehicle. Now the weight plate is situated in different areas around different trucks. However, our weight plate is situated behind the passenger door and is placed here. So on there will be your weights for the vehicle, your maximum mass and your axle weights. You could check the weight of the vehicle on a weigh bridge against the maximum weight plate to make sure that the vehicle is not overloaded. Check your manifest. On your manifest you will have the weight of the items on the vehicle. You would calculate those items to make sure that they do not exceed the maximum authorised mass weight on your weight plate. Failing all of that, you could still go and take the vehicle to a weigh station where you could get it weighed and checked. You're about to make a long journey beyond the fuel range of this vehicle. Show me what checks you would make to this vehicle's fuel system and explain the precautions that you would take to make sure that you do not run out of fuel. So obviously the first check that you would want to make is to make sure that you check the fuel gauge. So the fuel gauge is in different areas, different vehicles. However, I'm checking the ignition on and checking the amount of fuel that we've got and also the amount of AdBlue that we've got. Now at this point as well, what you need to say to the examiner is that you are also carrying either a fuel card or a cash card for more fuel for the journey should it be required. Please make sure that you do this. Then coming out of the vehicle, again making sure that we've got 3 points of contact as we get down. Close the door behind you. Then we're going to show the examiner that we're checking the fuel tank to make sure that the cap is on, and also checking to make sure that the tank is secured to the vehicle. And while you're there, we might as well mention the AdBlue as well, and we're checking that the cap is on the AdBlue tank and the tank is secured to the vehicle. Okay, the question is show me, and it's saying show me how you would check the maximum authorised mass of this vehicle. What other checks you carry out to make sure the vehicle is not overloaded? If you're still in doubt, what else could you do? This question is very similar to an earlier question, which some of these questions on the Module 4 do repeat themselves. However, you have to treat it as a fresh question and you have to give the full answers. So one of the things I would do, I would check the paperwork or the manifest for the load to make sure that how much weight is on the vehicle. I would check this information then against the vehicle's weight plate. And on this vehicle, as I said before, the weight plate is positioned behind the seat here. So I would check the weight plate, check the manifest to make sure I'm not overloaded the vehicle. I would check other signs for overloaded vehicle, which may be bulging tyres or the wheel arch sitting very low over the tyre itself. I could move away from the vehicle and I could check to see if the vehicle is listing or leaning over to one side. Finally, I could also take the vehicle to a weigh station and have it weighed and check the vehicle that way. Okay. Another question you may be asked, you need to leave your vehicle Where might you consider parking the vehicle, and please explain the safety checks and security precautions that you would take. So the first choice to leave a vehicle such as this, especially if you've got a high value load inside, would be to go into a truck stop where you've got video cameras, lighting, secure parking. If that is not available to you, then maybe the next one, if there's two vehicles, you would go back to back with your vehicles, securing the back doors. And then failing that, if you've got nobody with you, then you can maybe be able to park the vehicle in a well-lit area, backing the vehicle up against a solid object, a wall, securing the vehicle that way. You would make sure that when you leave the vehicle, you clear all your goods off the windscreen, making sure it's clean. Make sure that you then come round to the side and we will secure the vehicle correctly. Taking the keys out, making sure that all of the windows are up and secure. We will close, locking the doors, activate the alarm systems to make sure that it is alarmed, and then finally go around the vehicle and check all of the locks and all of the seals on the door. So again, we are checking the locks, and you should place seals through the door, and they should be checked to make sure that the vehicle is secure. Okay. Next question, you've been given a different vehicle to drive for the day. Show me all of the practical and visual safety checks you make before driving this vehicle. Now, you would do a daily walk around check and check outside the vehicle, and you will also do an in-cab check. Now, as far as the in-cab check's concerned, we'll be putting up a list for you to look at, and it will go on the screen anytime now. This should include your height indicator here, your seat belts, to make sure that the inertia works and that they lock in. Now, dash panel lights, we should switch the ignition on. All the lights should come on. All the lights should then go off, showing no faults. We can check the horn and washer wipers, tachograph here, and by the way, the driver's card goes in slot 1, driver 2 card goes in slot 2. Speed limiter plate, which is here on the panel on the side. On certain vehicles they may be at other points. Exhaust smoke, so exhaust smoke, we're making sure that we're not kicking out too much emissions, or rather there's a damaged engine. So what we would do is check that the park brake's on, check we're in neutral, check your mirrors and blind spots, fire the engine up. Once we're started, check your mirrors, rev the engine a little bit, and I'm looking for any excessive smoke that might show a worn or bad engine. When we're ready, we can turn that off. Okay, now we're going to do some of the external checks, and we're going to do a daily walk round of the vehicle. So exiting the vehicle with 3 points of contact, we come down, we're checking the mirrors are safe and secure to the vehicle and in good condition. The wheel arch and the spray suppression, or rather the mud guards, are covering the tyre so there's no excessive spray. We'll check the tyre, it should have 1 millimetre over 3/4 of the width around the whole circumference, and it should not have any damage to the sidewall. While we're at the wheel, we're looking at the wheel nuts and looking at the thread to make sure if we've got a wheel nut that may be loose, then you might see shiny thread there, indicating that the wheel nut is moving and creeping backwards and forwards. Moving along from the side of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle, I'll move away from the vehicle, check all the marker lights and the side lights, and obviously the indicators, and then I'm going to move into the vehicle, and I'm checking the windscreen wipers for any damage. And I'm also checking the windscreen itself to make sure there's no damage and there's nothing in the windscreen that's blocking the driver's view. Now, part of the vehicle checks would also be that I check the oil. So I'll release the bonnet, and I'm going to be checking the oil level using the dipstick. And also, if I want to add oil, I will add oil here. I will check the coolant of the vehicle, which is in this vehicle, it's a Volvo. So it's on a coolant tank just underneath the hood here. Maximum and minimum marks to be checked. And here is where I put the washer bottle fluid for a windscreen. You may need to show this to the examiner on test, so make sure, remember, it's a show me, tell me exam. Now, I've checked all the lights, checked all the windscreens, so I'm going to move around this side of the vehicle. Again, I'm going to repeat some of these checks. I'm going to check the mirrors to make sure they're safe, secure. I'm going to make sure the windows are clean. Again, the wheel arch, the spray suppression device, the mud flaps, also all the wheel nuts are secure, tied, sidewall. Down the side of the vehicle, I'm looking down the side of the vehicle to make sure that nothing's sticking out which could take out a pedestrian or a cyclist whilst driving along. Again, I'm also checking the side guards, I'm checking the battery bank to make sure the battery cover's on. Moving down the side, marker lights are all on. Spray suppression, tyre, wheel nuts all on. Sidewall looks good. Again, marker lights all the way down the vehicle. Checking in this version, because this is a pull and drag or a drawbar, I'm checking to make sure that the handle's stowed and not loose. Again, nothing's sticking out, landing legs are all up. Wheel arch, tyres, wheel nuts. Now on the back wheel here, you can see that we have got markers. Now the markers should be pointing together. If they're pointing away from each other, this may indicate that you've got a loose wheel nut. You need to check it with a mechanic. He can get his torque wrench on it, check for tightness. Moving to the back, wheel arch, again, wheel nuts around the side. Now, while we're on the back of the vehicles, we have got to check not only the height of this vehicle, but its length and its width. So if you're in doubt, you have to measure it. So check to make sure, because the question has been, you've been given a different vehicle for the day and show me the practical visual checks you make before driving the vehicle. Please remember you've got height, width and length to take into consideration. We carry on our checks to the back, making sure our marker lights are working, all the lights are working, and in this case, because it's a pull and drag, that the number plate is fixed. Marker lights are working. Round this side of the vehicle, and all we're doing now is we're repeating our checks again. Side guards secure, nothing sticking out that could take a pedestrian or a cyclist out. Tyre tread depths are 1 mm 3/4 width throughout the whole circumference. Sidewalls good. Again, spray suppression secure. Sidewalls, tyre good. And side guards are tight. Marker lights are all working. All of the Susie lines are attached. Again, tyres, wheel nuts. Checking to make sure there's nothing jammed in between the tyres on this back axle. Tank, make sure it's secure to the vehicle and the caps are on. That's your diesel tank, and just do another one on your AdBlue tank. Check it's secure and caps on, and then we're back to the start. So the other part of the check is to make sure that, again, that you've got enough fuel to make your delivery. And again, at this point, make sure that you also mention that you have further money or cash or a fuel card for more fuel for the journey should it be required. The next question, you've had a comfort break just before boarding a cross-channel ferry. Show me what checks you would make to this vehicle before driving through customs. Two other questions. I'm going to read the questions first and then give you the answers. So the next one is, you've parked at the docks and are following a rest break. You suspect the vehicle may have been tampered with. Show me what checks you would make around and inside the vehicle before you continue your journey. The next one would, you've been parked at a border crossing, have left the vehicle unattended. Show me the checks you would make before driving through customs. All three of those questions are actually asking the same thing. They're asking you to check for illegal immigrants and also for drugs. So first of all, we'll cover illegal immigrants. So the first thing I would do on my test is I would move away from the vehicle, and I'm looking to see if anybody is lying down on the roof of the vehicle. So move away, check the roof. Then we're going to move back into the vehicle, and we will check areas that maybe illegal immigrants might lie down behind the aerofoil. They may be able to squeeze in behind your cab. They may also go around to the back of the vehicle and show the examiner that you're checking inside the vehicle by looking high and low for illegal immigrants hiding behind your load. Making sure that when you close the doors that they are secure. Also, when checking for illegal immigrants, they may secure themselves to the chassis of the vehicle. So you must look underneath to check to make sure that there's nobody actually tied up to the chassis of the vehicle. Again, checking between the vehicle. Now, that's looking for illegal immigrants. We're also now looking for drugs. Now, drugs could be, and remember, it's a show me, tell me quiz, inside the cab. So 3 points of contact, in the cab we go. We got to show the examiner that we are checking all around the cab, all of these inside, around the dash. Again, 3 points of contact. Check for drugs behind there. Now please, with certain vehicles, you may have these doors here. And on this one, we pull the cable, open that up and check in here for any sign of any drugs. Secure that back. We'll come round. We're looking for drugs, so we can check all inside the wheel arches, round the wheels. Drugs could be stashed anywhere within the vehicle. Please don't forget to check under the bonnet. Drugs could be in here, around here, around here. So again, we're showing the examiner that we're checking for drugs there. Secure that down. We're going around the vehicle. Any place that you could think to place drugs, check it. Show that examiner you're checking everywhere, including tap the battery box and tell them you would check inside the battery box to see if that's been messed with. All the way around, under the chassis, under here, around the wheel arches, the tyres, they could even take a wheel off, changing that and put drugs in a tyre. Round the wheel arch, round the back, following and walking round the vehicle, checking all these, under the arches, tyres, all the way around the back of the vehicle. Again, don't forget to check inside the back of the vehicle as well. Remember, it's a fresh question, so you need to show them again, check again. Open the doors, look inside. Round the side, same here, all the way down this side, inside, all under the chassis, the tyres, the wheel arches. Anywhere you think you could put a package, you must show that examiner that you are checking. Especially when you come back up to this side of the vehicle, the diesel tank. Make sure that you tell the examiner, even show them if you have to, that you've lifted a cap and you're looking for any string that's on the top of the tank. This would show that just before you're going through customs, somebody's put drugs in a package, tied it to a string, dropped it in your tank, and then put your cap back on. So make sure that you're checking your tank and your cap and look for string. And that includes your AdBlue tank. So that's part of your Mod 4 checks for drugs and for illegal immigrants. Good. You're driving on the motorway and flames appear from the engine compartment. Show me how you would deal with electrical wiring fire and what is the appropriate fire extinguisher to use for the fire. So, coming to the cab, 3 points of contact. Now, I'm going to go through role play. So, we're driving the vehicle down the motorway. We check the mirrors and we see smoke coming out from one of them. The first thing is, and we're going to do, check my mirrors, signal, pull over onto the hard shoulder as safely and as quickly as possible. Then I will exit the cab on the safe side, the left side, as not making sure not to get out this side with 70 mile an hour traffic passing. However, for this morning, I am going to do that. So again, 3 points of contact, down the cab. We're going round to the other side of the vehicle. So we've 3 points of contact, we have climbed down from the vehicle. We've got smoke, a little bit of flames coming out. So at the moment, I'm going to now phone the emergency services to tell them that on the hard shoulder and my location on the motorway by using signage. I will also then look at the fire and make a decision whether to tackle that fire with a CO2 dry powder fire extinguisher, if available, and if the fire is small enough to be tackled. If it isn't, then I'm going to leave the vehicle alone and I'm going to move away from the vehicle, keeping everybody else away from the vehicle. However, if I am going to fight the vehicle fire, I am going to isolate the batteries by the isolator switch here. That will throw the power off to the fire, hopefully again extinguishing the fire by taking the power away. And then I will keep everybody else clear of the vehicle and myself clear of the vehicle until emergency services arrive. How's that? Okay. So the next question, you suspect a brake fault on this vehicle. Show me what checks you would make to carry out to make sure the compressor is working, and any checks you could make to identify any air leaks. So first of all, we're going to check the air gauge and we're going to make sure the compressor's working. Now the air gauge is down on the right hand side with a circular symbol on the Volvo. So first of all, to check a compressor's working, we're going to have to take some air out of the actual tanks. So by doing it, all I'm going to do is press the foot brake 2 or 3 times, and as you can see, the needle is now moving down and out of the green. Once you've got that, the only way that that needle's going to go back up is if the compressor's doing its job and pushing air in. So what we're going to do is check that we're in neutral, check that the park brake is on, check the mirrors and the blind spots, and we'll fire the engine up. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the revs up just a little bit, and the compressor should push the needle on the air tanks back into the green. And as you can see, the needle now is going back into the green. This proves that the compressor is doing its job and it is working. So that's the first stage. The next stage will be to turn the engine off, open a window or a door, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to place my foot on the foot brake, press down and hold, and I'm just going to listen for any air leaks, any hissing. Now I could also get out of the vehicle, walk around the vehicle and listen for any hissing as well at that point. Now if we're happy that we haven't got any air leaks, I can't hear any hissing, now we're just going to quickly test the brakes to make sure that they are actually doing their job. So again, mirror checks, blind spot checks, fire the engine up, pop it into gear, leave the handbrake on, check the mirrors, and we're going to test the handbrake's holding. So gentle push, and as we can feel, the truck's just sitting up, but it's not moving, so the handbrake is holding. Finally, we could do a quick roll away check, and what I'm going to do is check the mirrors, check the blind spots, gently move forward and brake, and that shows that the rolling brake is working also. Okay. So now we're looking at the chains and the toggle. These are used for securing steel loads. Now the important thing about the chains is that make sure that when you are using the hooks, the chain should go through, the whole link should go into the hook like that, like this. So I'll demonstrate that to you. So there's the hook. When you place it in the chain, you place it through the chain, through both links, putting the whole link in there. Now obviously the load would be here, so on your test the cage will be presented like this. What you need to do is make sure that you put the chains on correctly, securing the square load, and then attach your toggle by pulling as much slack as you can through there and much slack as you can through there. This device then will shrink, pulling the two chains together and tightening within the cage and tightening the load. So all we do is make sure this is operating the correct way, and as you can see, the moment that's moving out, so we change the direction by the toggle. Look at the arm there, you should see it shrinking. And as you can see, this is shrinking. That will pull the two arms together, tensioning the chains on this side and securing the load. Then to undo it is quite simple. We just operate the ratchet, and that will now lengthen. As we ratchet, will lengthen the arm out, giving us slack on this side and this side. Then all we have to do is take that out and detach the whole arm and place it on the ground. Okay, so this device here is called a tension bar, and we use this when you're dealing with a box vehicle, box trailer, and you are using maybe rolling cages. So you would push the cages up against the headboard, evenly distributed, and at the back of the load, you would operate the tension bar. It's quite simple to operate. To take it off, push it down, bring the lever up, take that out. It's telescopic, so it opens up to the length of the vehicle. There's normally 3 of these at the back of the load, so you would push your load up against the headboard, evenly distributed. At the back of the load, you would place the tension bar at the width of the vehicle, and then we finally lock it over, pushing it down, making sure the secure clip is over, and the tension bar is jammed against the sides, securing the load up against the headboard.